Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again a few days before Yom Yerushalaim. Sunday will be Yom Yerushalaim, and it's a super day because 55 years ago, our enemies from all sides, from north and south and east, tried to push us west into the sea. The state of Israel was only 19 years old in 1967, and they made an effort altogether to push us into the sea. They were threatening us, and they were getting their troops together. And Baruch Hashem, we did a preemptive attack. We managed to have incredible success. Any way you want to evaluate success, whether it is pushing the enemy away many, many kilometers, whether it is the amount of soldiers that fell on each side, whether it is the amount of days we actually had to be fighting, whether it is the calculated risks that we took and actually worked, and the calculated risks that they took where they fell flat on their face. Real Nissim. This is a war that is not studied in any school that teaches soldiers or officers around the world, because it's not a natural war. This is a supernatural war, and for a supernatural war, we say Hallel. And it's a very special day on many levels, also emotionally. The fact that we have Yerushalaim back in our custody during those 19 years from 48 to 67, they were not in our hands. The old city was not in our hands, and Baruch Hashem, since then, we have Jerusalem in our hands, and we can go to the Kotel, and it warms our heart to understand that Jerusalem is back in Jewish hands. Where does the word Jerusalem come from? Yerushalayim, where does it come from? So the Gemara tells us that there were two important people who first set foot in that place. The first one was Shem. Shem was the eldest son of Noach, Shem, Ham, and Yafet, the firstborn. And we know that the firstborn, before we had Shevet Levi and we had the Kohanim, so the firstborn were Kohanim. So Noach's firstborn was a Kohen. And therefore, when it says, Melchizedek, Melech Shalem, Hotzi Lechem V'yayin V'hu Kohen La'el Elyon, we see in Bereshit that Melchizedek was the first king of Shalem, of Yerushalaim, of Shalem. He called it Shalem. And he was a big tzaddik. We know that the first yeshiva was Yeshivat Shem Ve'ever, and Shem was a great-grandfather of Ever, so he was the senior Talmid Chacham of all generations, Shem. So he was the first Kohen, and he called it Shalem. So in his honor, we have the second part of the name. However, when Avraham Avinu finished with sacrificing, instead of sacrificing Yitzchak, he sacrificed the ayil that he found there, and therefore he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is a special place. This is Asher Ya'amer Hayom Bahar Hashem Yera'eh. This Akedat Yitzchak, when he tried to bring his son Yitzchak, Isaac, as a sacrifice, and it didn't work out, this was on that same mountain, and Avraham called it Yera'eh. So the Talmud tells us, because of the importance of these two people, Avraham and Shem. So Avraham says Yera'eh, Shem says Shalem. So Yerushalayim is a combination of these two names, which is very interesting on a deeper level, because Avraham was the first Navi, he was the first prophet. And as I mentioned before, Shem was the first Kohen. And throughout the Torah, we don't have kings and we don't have rabbis. What we do have as leadership is a Kohen and a Navi. A Kohen is a Kohen because his father was a Kohen, his child is going to be a Kohen. Ohev Shalom, V'rodef Shalom, loves peace and brings the offerings and has a very peaceful relationship with Am Yisrael, Mevarechet Amo Yisrael Ba'ava. He gives the special blessing to all of Am Yisrael with a lot of love. On the other hand, the Navi tells the truth. And it doesn't matter if he has to break the statues of his father, Avraham Avinu. He has to go and he has to break the news to everybody. Avraham Ivri. Ivri means he's on the other side. A Navi, a prophet, says. And these are the two types of leadership we find in the Beis HaMikdash as well. Because in the Beis HaMikdash, that was the place of the Kohanim. That was the headquarters of the Kohanim. On the other hand, the Sanhedrin, the High Court, also sat there. Lishkat HaGazit, we had the Sanhedrin. So Yerushalayim actually was the frontier of both justice, which is Navi, and love, which is the Kohanim. I want to share with you another idea, though, which takes us to a different halacha completely, and a different idea, which is the mitzvah of tzitzis. Where do we have the mitzvah of tzitzis from? So it says that when Avram had a battle against the 4 kings that won the 5 kings, and he freed Lot, and then he gave back all the loot, all the booty. He gave back to the kings. He didn't want to take anything. They offered him, please take something. So he says, Avraham says, I won't take a thing. I won't take a string. I won't take a shoelace from you. I won't take anything, not a string or a shoelace. And because of that, Rashi says that we have the mitzvah of a string, that we have the string in the zchut, the mitzvah of strings, the mitzvah of tzitzis is in the zchut of Avraham Avinu. However, we have a second story, which is the story of Shem, of this Melchizedek, when he was much younger, when he saw his father getting drunk, when Noach got drunk, and he went to cover him up. It says, "Vayikach Shem va'Yefet et hasimla ve'elchu achornit." They took the garment and they went backwards to cover him up in order to save his honor, in order not to see his nakedness. But it says vayikach, not plural vayikchu, and therefore it shows that Shem instigated this. It was his idea. Yefet was willing to be a partner in this, but he didn't instigate. Therefore, because Shem instigated this wonderful idea of saving the lost dignity of his father by covering him up whilst going backwards with this garment, so he gets a mitzvah with a garment. What is the mitzvah with a garment? Tzitzis. So 1 second, is tzitzis from Shem or is it from Avraham? So it seems that both are true. That means we have the garment from Shem and we have the strings from Avraham, which means when we wear talis, what we're wearing is a combination of Avraham and Shem. I want to share with you an emotion I have. An emotion I have ever since I learned this, what I just now told you. Every time I go to daven and I wrap myself in my talis, in my tzitzis, I feel I am in Yerushalaim. Yerushalayim is a combination of Avraham and Shem, and so is the tzitzis, a combination of Avraham and Shem. And therefore, when I put on my talis, may it be in Australia, Canada, America, England, or anywhere around Israel, when I wrap up in my talis, I feel I am now in Yerushalayim. A short idea and a short feeling towards Yom Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom.